Hi, kindergarten friends. I'd like to read you a little story about Mousekin's Easter basket, and it's written by Edna Miller. And we've already read a story about Mousekin when Mousekin moved into an abandoned jack-o'-lantern at Halloween. Remember that story? And this is our same friend Mousekin and this new Easter adventure. Now there's some things you're going to see in this book I want to show you. In this book, an important object will be a nest. So I want you to keep your eyes out for when the nest comes into the story. Another important thing is a small egg of a songbird. It's going to be a bird's egg in this story. There's also going to be a wild cherry tree with beautiful blossoms. And we get wild cherry trees in Souk as well. You might see them, and they're blossoming right now. Another little blossom that's important in the story and that you can see in Souk is a little flower just like this, and it's called a violet. It has 2 petals on the top, 3 petals on the bottom, and it has leaves that are shaped like little green hearts. And I picked this one out of my yard. They are starting to bloom now. They're a sign of spring. You can find them in this purple color or a bluey violet or a white. So this is a violet. Maybe that's where the word violet comes from. Violet like the color purple. It also means this flower. Mousekin's Easter basket. I bet you guys have seen an Easter basket before. Maybe you're lucky enough and you had one this Easter. There's Mousekin. Oh, there we go. There's Mousekin here. And what flower could that be? It has the leaf in the shape of a heart. 2 petals up, 3 petals down. And it looks like Mousekin is nibbling on it. Oh, beautiful. Those don't look like songbirds' eggs. What kind of eggs do those look like? I agree, Easter eggs, like the Easter bunny brings. Mousekin listened as raindrops pelted to the forest floor. The spring rain ran in rivulets by moss-covered rocks and wildflowers. It trickled its way along twisted roots and down into Mousekin's home in the ground. Mousekin makes a little burrow, and he likes to sleep underground. When the first drops of rain splashed his coat and dampened his leafy nest, Mousekin raced up to the forest floor. He knew he must find a new home soon, one that was high and dry and safe from sudden spring showers. So imagine that, friends. If the rain keeps falling and flooding on the forest floor, what's going to happen to Mousekin's nest? Yeah, it's going to fill up with water. That's right. It's not a safe place for him to be. There's the violets again. What is this? When the rain had stopped and tree toads sang their nightly chorus, you know what they sound like. Mousekin hopped outside. The little mouse squeaked with surprise when a large white furry creature suddenly leapt past him and disappeared into the forest. Boing! Wonder what creature this is. What do you think? Could be. More hungry than afraid, Mousekin nibbled wildflowers that grew at the base of the tree. Only woodland creatures know which plants can fill and which plants can kill. That's right, friends. That means that we shouldn't go into the forest and just start nibbling at a flower or a berry because we think we know. We always have to check with an expert, especially a grown-up. But Mousekin knows that this violet is good for eating. As he nibbled and gnawed, he heard a thumping sound. Then in a crash of underbrush, he saw a young fox run away. What could have frightened a hungry young fox who wanted a mouse for its dinner? Confusing. Usually the foxes are the ones chasing after the mice. Mousekin hurried to the top of a tree and hid in its flowering branches. When he recovered from his fright, he spied a robin's nest. It was just the right size for a white-footed mouse to make a snug, new home. It is just the right size. And will this one stay nice and dry in the rain, friends? As Mousekin scampered into the nest, the mother bird returned. There were pale blue eggs already in the nest, waiting to be hatched. Mousekin ran back down to the forest floor as the robin scolded him. I bet she did. She probably thought, "Stay away from my eggs." Not far from the tree, Mousekin could see a nest built of twigs and grasses. Look at this one, friends. It's on the ground. The towhee's nest was the right size, too, but built too close to the ground. The mother bird called, "Cheek, cheek," as she guarded her pink speckled eggs. Now we have towhees in Souk as well. Mousekin heard another sound, a rapid thumping on the ground that he had heard before. It warned Mousekin that danger was near. It startled a weasel who couldn't decide between catching pink speckled eggs or a mouse for its dinner. There's the weasel. It's like a very, very small ferret, and it's true. It likes to eat mice and eggs to feed itself and its babies. Just as the weasel sprang away, Mousekin spun about to see a huge white rabbit. Its long furry ears were lined with pink. Its eyes were pink-colored too. A torn and tattered ribbon hung loose around its neck. Friends, this doesn't look like the wild rabbits we have in Souk. The wild rabbits we have in Souk are brown with little white tails called cottontails. This is a different bunny altogether. The rabbit was bigger than a snowshoe hare that turns white in winter. It was much bigger than a cottontail, but Mousekin was not afraid. A rabbit wouldn't harm a mouse. Rabbits eat grass and wildflowers too. When Mousekin hurried on his way to find a safe new home, the big white rabbit followed after. The creature was lost in the forest and afraid to be alone. Oh wow, so this big rabbit here was lost and needed the help of a little mouse. Just like I tell you, friends, it doesn't matter if it's small. You are powerful and you can do wonderful things, even if you're small. Mousekin explored many trees in the woods. He discovered many nests. Some were filled with pale tinted eggs and other with newly hatched chicks. Look how pink they are. Look at their hungry mouths open, friends. When Mousekin returned to the forest floor, after his search in a tree, he felt safe from dangers on the ground, for the big rabbit sat waiting for him. I think they're helping each other. Mousekin knew he must find a home before the day was done. It isn't safe for a white-footed mouse to be up and about with the sun. That's true, friends. Mice are usually nocturnal. They run around and look for food in the night in the dark. High on the branch of a wild cherry tree, Mousekin discovered a nest. It was empty and safely hidden beneath a leafy umbrella. Now, if this nest, friends, is empty in the springtime, it's probably never going to be filled because most birds lay their eggs and start brooding in the spring. The little mouse made trips, many trips, from the top of the tree to the floor below, to the top of the tree to the floor below. He gathered moss and grasses to build a mouse-sized shelter inside the old robin's nest. Mousekin was so busy, he didn't stop to see that the big white rabbit had run off to a clearing and was romping with the cottontails. Now those are the type of wild rabbits that we see in Souk, the cottontails. A long-eared owl saw the rabbits at play. It saw a white-footed mouse at work. There were hungry young owls in a far-off nest, waiting to be fed. And friends, you know what owls eat, right? Yes, they eat other animals. When Mousekin stopped to nibble at some flowers, he heard the rabbit's thumping sound, the rabbit drum of its hind foot on the ground. It warned him again of danger. Looking about, he caught sight of the owl as it swooped down into the clearing. That's how rabbits tell other rabbits that there's danger. They stomp their foot and thump it on the ground. Just like Thumper in the movie Bambi. The big white rabbit and the cottontails leapt in all directions. When Mousekin heard a rabbit scream, rabbits do scream, friends, he fled away in terror. He ran till he came to the edge of the woods and dove into a thicket of green. He waited for the rabbit to follow, but his pink-eyed friend never came. Mousekin waited until daybreak before he looked about. Red tulips, yellow daffodils were growing everywhere. They were not like any flower Mousekin had seen in the forest, and the strong, sweet scent of the hyacinth made his whiskers twitch. There's a reason he's never seen these in the forest, friend. These are not wild flowers. These are flowers that people plant in their gardens. From his perch in the evergreens, Mousekin spied a large nest on the ground. The brightly woven basket was filled with large colored eggs, unlike any he had seen before. Some had dots, some had stripes, some were a rainbow of color. Just as Mousekin hurried down to peek inside the basket, his big white rabbit friend poked her head through the branches. She wore a bright new shiny ribbon around her furry neck. In that same instant, a small hand reached in and snatched up the egg-filled basket. "We found them! We found them!" he heard small children shout. Mousekin darted from his hiding place and raced back into the forest. He hurried to his own little nest high in the cherry tree branches, and just before Mousekin curled up to sleep, a robin heard him singing. His high, soft chirps and trilling sounds were as sweet as any bird's. Did you know that, friends? Did you know that mice can make noises as well? I wonder who that little white rabbit was after all. I hope you guys had a great Easter. Take care.